Okay, good morning, everybody. I think we're now at 10 o'clock, so we'll get started on time. The good news is that not many people will hear my opening remarks, hopefully, as more will be joining us. So just to introduce myself and the panel at the top, I'm Katrina Dunbar. I'm the branch manager for the Energy Institute Aberdeen, Highlands and Islands branch. And we've been working with the committee for several months planning today's event on diversity of thought. So you'll see my fellow panellists across the top, Alison Mitchell from the Energy Institute, Suli and Ratika are from SPE Aberdeen's Women in Energy group. And we have our three presenters, Carla, Helen and Victoria, who Alison will introduce you to shortly. We've got over 120 registered to join us, which is a great number, so it shows enthusiasm for the event. Thank you to our speakers for taking part and to you all for logging in. One small change to our lineup for today is that Karen Jones from Emerson, who was due to be joining us, is no longer able to join us due to work commitments, but she's hoping to join us at a future event. So Carla from Spirit Energy has dived in, shall we say, literally at the deep end at the last moment, so thanks for that. I'm running the technical side of things today, so if there's any questions that anybody has for me, just send me a note on the chat function as host. It'll come directly to me. Please ensure that everybody keeps their microphone muted so we can hear the speaker as well. And use the chat function if you want to ask questions throughout. We will be posing questions to the panelists in the form of a panel discussion after the presentations, and we'll aim to answer as many questions as we can. So if you have a question for a specific panelist, then let us know. We're recording the session as well, so we'll be sending out a link to the recording afterwards if you want to view it again to catch up or send it on to your colleagues. So that will come out in the next few days once it's uploaded to our YouTube account. So I'll now pass you on to Alison, who will give you a wee introduction on background to the event. Thank you.
Thanks, Katrina. I just want to check, I've just stopped sharing my screen, so I hope that looks okay. So good morning, my name is Alison Mitchell. So I'm a committee member for the EI and founder of a startup called Agile Resource. Today's topic is one I'm very passionate about, so I decided to work closely with Katrina to plan this event. We reached out to SPE Aberdeen's Women in Energy group, and we were delighted to have Suli and Ratika join our planning group. While we were planning, we realised we had no shortage of potential topics. We have bias, emotional intelligence and trust, barriers to gender diversity, talent retention, future workforce, inclusion, progression, training, flexible working, skills lost to industry, COVID-19, oil price, mental health. It was all there. Now, in my daily life, I spend a lot of time discussing career paths with women in particular, and there are common themes which emerge. There is not a lack of ambition. There is a desire for training and progression. And there's a huge amount of potential that's just not being utilised. I know women who have taken up STEM careers, who have then left industry for various reasons and had to start afresh. Lack of flexibility, lack of suitable roles, lack of progression have all been cited as common problems. I've been evangelic about the need for businesses to be more flexible in their approach to work patterns for years because I know that's one thing that affects women. I actually believe it would benefit everyone, regardless of gender or whether you're a parent. However, during my research, I've also found out, I've come to realise that even with flexibility, the fact still remains that positions for senior, experienced women just don't exist in the industry as it stands. I believe we need to take a close look all the way back to the recruiting process and job design. We need to end the cookie cutter approach where we just recruit more of the same type of people who tick the most boxes. It's the definition of madness, doing the same thing but expecting different results. So we wanted to hold this event as a starting point just to discuss how we can make a positive change in the industry, and so we can start. So the best way to facilitate it is to have the discussion. So let's get moving. I want to introduce our speakers. As Katrina said, they'll present in turn and then we'll open up for debate and questions. So welcome to Helen West, Head of Operational Excellence at Thames Water, Carla Riddle, Senior Vice President of Spirit Energy, and Victoria Allen. She's Golden Eagle Offshore Operations Engineer with CNOOC International. So thank you for listening to me, and over to Helen to get us underway.
Good morning, everybody. As I said, I am currently with Thames Water today around about diversity of thought and leading our sector into the energy industry. I'm going to talk to you today. My piece, I think, is more around how you do that and how you transition, and a bit about you and kind of managing your own career. And that's kind of where I see I've gravitated towards as a leader, and I naturally want people to progress, women to progress, and to show people how to get there. I thought I'd talk a bit about myself and my background, and then probably just move into that. Who am I? I'm a mother, I'm a leader, I'm a wife, I'm a woman, and I'm an engineer. I was trying to think of different things to kind of say to you. I could have went on all day. Previously, I was a soldier. And then I thought about, but like most of you, I have a career, I have goals, which drive me to where I want to be, and also all aspects of my life. But the main kind of takeaway is that to remain flexible to change, and more so in the energy industry, where we have been really talking about resilience. And I'll go back to when I joined the energy industry in the downturn, just prior to the downturn. But I'll talk about that later. But it's about, I've been an engineer now for almost 30 years, and it's continually adapting yourself to a changing environment. And it's about not being scared, and it's about finding out where you fit in that new role, and it's making yourself sustainable in the changing future. So the big piece for me was when I came into energy, that the transition was around, we must be more efficient. So we had to change how we did things because we weren't very efficient. And then we moved a few years down the line and we were efficient and we'd moved there. And then it was about technology. It was about driving technology, driving innovation to make the future more joined up, a connected world, real-time information and all the rest of the stuff. But then we find ourselves about having to now adapt ourselves to the carbon neutral future. And the transition is here. The energy sector is at a pivotal point on that new journey, but it's for you on here to understand, but what's your role in that? How do you adapt to that changing environment? So what I would say is that how do we as an energy industry, or as an industry as a whole, actively include women in energy and the energy transition to ensure that we meet the challenges and maximise the opportunities that lie ahead? As an industry in transition, we need to come together to effectively future-proof our sector in terms of leadership and skills and attracting the next generation of energy leaders. The leadership profile has to look different than it has in previous years, particularly in oil and gas. And that's not an elephant in the room. That demographic was very heavily weighted towards a male environment. And I think energy must change, but I think it is changing, and events such like this will bring it to the fore. But I don't think it's just about the demographic of females and males. I think it's about age, I think it's about race, and I think it's about sex as well. So all of that demographic is changing, but that's part of how we get there and how we succeed in that transition. I think for me, it's about finding your value. If the business that you're in, and I think during COVID, we've all kind of realised about what your value is to a business, because we've been scrutinised, and the right place will value you. If you're not valued, it's not about getting angry. It means that you're in the wrong place. Those who know your value and those who appreciate you. And what I would say is, and this is not just to go out and change things overnight, but I would never stay in a place where nobody knows your value. But what I would say is that don't expect people to come looking for your value. You must show them that. The big piece for me is that nobody is going to hold your hand and pull you along in your career. Only you can manage your career. And during the energy transition, it's for you to find your own space. And I'm not saying you have to do that on your own, because my whole process through being an engineer and finding where I am and getting, pushing myself to managerial roles and leadership roles, that's been me pushing that, but also me showing what my value is, and demonstrating what I add to a business. So what I would say is that you must have a plan to where you want to be. There's no sense in sitting back and waiting for somebody to identify where you fit. You look at a business and you say, I want to be there, and you make a plan of how you get there. I mean, these are short-term plans. You should have long-term plans which are fixed. I think anybody that's online today, and I have saw a few people that I know, will know that I'm very passionate about your long-term goals, but making flexible short-term goals which help you get to those. And it's not just about your professional life, it's about your personal life as well. We all interact, and I often talk to all of my line managers about that. And when I was looking at the advertisements for this event, I think Katrina had put up a collage of different wording around the transition and women in STEM and oil and gas and gender diversity, race diversity, women leaders. And the big piece that came out to me was mentoring. And if there's anybody out there who is keen to move forward, you can get help and find yourself a mentor. Go and find a mentor and somebody that's going to help you on that process or on that transition. I myself personally, I chose 2 mentors. They weren't particularly people that were in my area of expertise. It was people who I thought could help me. One is a female who I knew that I had gaps in how I get to my end goal, and that person could help bridge those gaps for me. And one was in technology, and I don't mind saying what they are, but and that's kind of, and then it's not much out of the day, but I had to go and physically and do that myself. Nobody's going to kind of come and do it for you. So I think through the energy transition and driving women in STEM and driving this gender diversity in leadership and bringing the correct skills and being noticed, you've got to do some of that on your own. And that's what I say. So if there's some takeaways that I can bring to the table today, and any advice that I can give to the people who have tuned in today, is have a plan. You don't necessarily have to stick to that plan, but your long-term plan will guide you. Know what you want, but also do not undervalue yourself. Let people see your value. And that's, I'll kind of leave you to ponder on that. I'm open for questions, but I think that would quite nicely allow me to pass on to Carla. And I'll take some questions at the end if anybody's would like to ask me any. So thank you.
Thanks very much. So I might not be who some of you were expecting to see today, but that's the good thing about diversity of thought. Anyone can have it, anyone can have an opinion, and actually the more different points of view, the better. So I'm going to talk really briefly today about an area of diversity of thought in context of my own career and what's been important to me. So to introduce myself, I'm Carla Riddell. I'm Senior Vice President at Spirit Energy, working in the oil and gas industry, and I have been all my working life. That job I do today involves being a member of the company's executive team, responsibility for our assets in the west of Shetland, also our digitalisation function in the business, and also how we're adapting to the energy transition. So it feels like quite a diverse role, but hearing Helen, I'm maybe not as diverse as I thought I was. During the time I've worked in oil and gas, I trained as a geologist, spent time on the business side of oil and gas, and as an asset manager, more recently then as head of corporate strategy. And I've worked for consultancies and operators in the office and offshore, and it's allowed me to see lots of different sides of this industry, which is kind of the first reflection I'll share with you, because I never intended that to happen. I thought I'd be a geologist all my life, and I love geology, but being able to step away from that comfort zone and open my eyes to something new has really helped me as I've understood the importance of diversity and different viewpoints. And I'd really describe it as, you don't know what you don't know. So it's only when you open yourself up to something that you realise there's maybe a different way of looking at things. And it's kind of a growth mindset, being open to things. Of course, you don't have to get a new job to develop a growth mindset, and you can do that within your own discipline. But if I kind of share my experience, it's really through stepping away from where I was comfortable that has allowed me to put the importance on diversity. The oil and gas industry is full of complex decisions, often based on incomplete data, and that's really where diverse teams come in. Diverse teams make better decisions. That's not my opinion. It's a fact. I'm sure studies show that, and we could probably list a few. But I put it in the context of oil and gas. If there's often a high cost if we get something wrong, so the more we can do in investing in a quality decision, a robust decision, the better, because by thinking about different points of view, we can often engender better decision making. The problem with that is it often takes longer to make complex decisions if there are more voices involved. So there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a balance between requirements to move forward and to make a decision, but also to look at things from different points of view. And of course, there's always times when we need to react quickly, and that's often where experience and direction comes in. But if I give you some examples of where hearing diverse points of view have made a difference that I've seen kind of on the ground in decision making in my part of the energy industry, it can be so diverse, from risking a chance of success for an exploration well, picking between two different candidates for a role, designing a development plan for a new field, or selecting between two capital investments. They are all better decisions if you have more than one point of view. You can see things from different angles and avoid the trap of groupthink. So diversity of thought is important, and that all sounds great. And we do have diversity in the oil and gas industry. So kind of where's the problem? Well, I'm going to approach it from this point of view, and think about my own career, and often where has been the limiting factors for me, and sometimes it's myself actually holding me back. And because there's kind of a phenomenon that's described as you can't be what you can't see. So unless you have that role model and to see that there's a path been forged by someone that you can relate to, everything seems much harder. So we can say lots of great things about the importance of diversity, but to be able to live it, we've got to give people the opportunities, and you've got to create the opportunities yourself. To push yourself. So having a range of visible role models from all walks of life, and showing you what your place in the industry and industry's place as well might be is important. So here's a question for you, and use the Q&A function to answer to this. Let's see who's paying attention. But answer, if you think you have a visible role model or someone that you can relate to, you don't have to know them, but just there's someone there that you think you can inspire you to be yourself, and say, yes, I know I'm inspired by someone and I've got that role model. If you think there's something lacking there, then answer, no, actually, I'd love to see more leaders who represent whatever it is that you would like to see more of. Because I'm really interested to get your point of view. Are you surrounded by people who inspire you, or do you think there's a gap there that you'd like to see filled? And if so, then you might just be the person to fill it yourself. But picking up again on something that Helen's just said, the importance of mentors, role models, inspiration is important. Mentors have made a huge difference to me, and in fact, they still do. Encouraging me to take different paths. I spoke about the kind of different roles that I've had. That only happened because someone encouraged me to be a little brave and make a difference. And mentoring can come in many different forms. It doesn't need to be a formal relationship, but recognizing it can often be how you get the power. So recently, I've been incredibly privileged to lead a mentoring circle, and it's been hugely inspirational for me because, of course, being part of a mentor-mentee relationship, it's not just for the mentee. The mentor gets a lot out of it, and if they don't, then there's something wrong there. But in the mentoring circle I was part of, we formed just before lockdown. We've only met twice in person. But this group was fantastic because although we had a lot of similarities, we're very diverse in our approach, and we managed to meet multiple times since February, and just seeing the different points of view and the different approach to deal with the challenges during lockdown we all were facing has been a great experience. So my point is, you don't need to just have a senior person in your workplace to be your mentor and meet with them to a scheduled path. Mentors come in many different forms, and particularly with a mentoring circle, the power is not just for the lead mentor. Everyone is sharing their thoughts, and it's very powerful. So find yourself a space for that, and to get inspiration from other people. I encourage you to surround yourself with people who inspire you, and however you can manage that. So I guess finally then, looking a little bit to the future and less about me, then we're slowly starting to come back to some normality, and in our working lives, it's a really good opportunity to take stock. The oil and gas industry is full of challenges, and you know, you didn't join the oil and gas industry if you work in it now because you don't love a challenge. So I hope that spark is there. You know, commodity price has been tough throughout the year. Our responsibility to the energy transition and a green recovery is more important than ever. And to enable that, we need to get the most from our workforce and encourage creativity that comes with diversity. So I guess diversity of thought is key to that, being creative to overcome our challenges, but also embracing new ways of working, whether that's a new working lifestyle, new technology, digitalization, but being open to the new, and that could be a more diverse role for you in the future. So we all have our own responsibility to promote diversity and to be ourselves and share our point of view. And a final thought before I hand over to Victoria is, if you can't see any role models, then just consider that you might be one yourself, and there's a responsibility there for you to give back to others. It's not a seniority thing. Everyone has that responsibility. So our final speaker then, Victoria, and thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm just getting my, bear with me. Thank you. Okay. So good morning and thank you for the introduction, Carla. And I would just like to say a big thank you to the Energy Institute, SPE Aberdeen and Powerful Women for allowing me to be part of this event. Moving on to what I will be covering today, I'll just be doing a very brief introduction to myself, recapping the basics, the challenges faced, and then my personal experience, as well as concluding with looking to the future. Just a brief introduction to myself. So compared to the other speakers, Carla and Helen, I have much less experience than them. So I'm a graduate mechanical engineer for CNOC International. I graduated from Robert Gordon University in 2017 with a Master's in Mechanical and Offshore Engineering. And I started with CNOC in October 2017. And I've worked in a number of roles. So I've worked in the Facilities Engineering Department. I've worked as the Hydrocarbon Release Prevention Focal Point. And I've also worked on the Golden Eagle and Buzzard platforms as the Offshore Operations Engineer. So that photo on the right there is me on the Golden Eagle platform. And I'm also a very active STEM ambassador for CNOC International. So we facilitated primary school visits to the office, as well as help support TechFest with various projects that are ongoing. So just starting off with a quick recap slide covering definitions, benefits, statistics, and a summary to frame this presentation, which I'm sure could generate enough discussion for 10 hours, let alone 10 minutes. So definitions then, diversity refers to the traits and characteristics that make people unique, while inclusion refers to the behaviours and social norms that ensure people feel welcome. Not only is inclusivity crucial for diversity efforts to succeed, but creating an inclusive culture will provide benefits for employee engagement and productivity. So moving on to benefits then, the benefits of a diverse workforce are numerous and well documented. Forbes, for example, has found that close to 85% of large global enterprises believe that workforce diversity is critical in driving innovation, and that teams with equal numbers of men and women generate on average 40% more revenue for their employer. Every single person holds a different view of the world. The more ways we can perceive a problem, the higher the likelihood is that we can solve them. Very few industries rely on individual genius to drive them forward. Instead, most STEM fields are based on teamwork to some degree, which means that having this range of attitudes is critical to success. Some statistics that I thought were quite interesting is that currently the UK has the lowest proportion of women in engineering of any European country, with females accounting for just 10% of roles and 14% of engineering university places. A study showed that the UK needs 186,000 engineers annually through to 2024, and that study was done by Engineering UK. So to summarise, if you put it simply, a team of like-minded engineers, mathematicians or scientists, all with the same backgrounds and who have faced similar challenges, will not be as effective as a team with more diverse ways of thinking. Equally importantly, focusing on diversity will also help to tackle the ever-growing skills shortage impacting the STEM area, which has been described as a national crisis. So some of the key challenges that I feel are contributing to the lack of women in energy are as follows. So number one, lack of awareness of opportunities. As I'm part of this small cohort of female engineers, it seems as if thousands of skilled, innovative and talented women aren't even considering engineering as a career. To combat this, young women need to be made more aware of the opportunities available to them. The reasons careers such as hairdressing, for example, are so popular is because social media is full of women working in these types of roles. What is noticeably absent is the portrayals of women in successful high-powered careers like engineering. Number 2, lack of role models. Because of this lack of women in STEM, young girls, students and graduates do not have many role models that can inspire them to opt for STEM jobs. Stereotypes and biases also shape the public's opinion on what women in STEM should be or look like. For instance, in 2015, a software company called OneLogic launched its recruitment marketing campaign that featured an attractive female engineer. It received a massive backlash from the public. People, especially males, were complaining that this is not what an engineer would look like. This resulted in a social media campaign that you might remember called #ILookLikeAnEngineer in order to raise awareness about the issue. This would not have been required if there was more gender diversity within STEM. Number 3, education and workplaces aren't making enough changes to accommodate female students. When it comes to primary school, there are plenty of options and support for girls to develop STEM skills. There are many science programmes based locally, such as TechFest, science centres that are eager to involve girls. However, beyond primary school, this support diminishes, and so does the number of women in STEM. Fewer girls keep their interest and motivation in science subjects in high school and enrol in STEM degrees. Reports revealed that small adjustments in science and technology departments in universities and colleges, such as introductory courses with a broader field overview, can significantly increase the number of female students who enrol and remain in STEM degrees. Number 4, social bias. Research shows that people view STEM fields as masculine up to this day. Society views women in science and engineering jobs as less competent than men unless they are showing considerable success. And even then, people still view them as less likable individuals. These stereotypes directly affect women's motivation and emotional state in their job and its society. As a result, even those few women who end up in science and engineering positions are more likely to quit, stating isolation and hostility at their workplace as some of the primary reasons for them doing so. And finally, number 5, global environment. Some sources indicate that about 74% of primary school girls have an interest in STEM subjects, yet data from Microsoft shows that this interest drops significantly when they reach high school. A report from the American Association of University Women showed that the learning environment and social belief system affects girls' interests and achievements in STEM subjects. Findings revealed that girls who believed that experience and learning expanded intelligence were more likely to do better on maths tests. They also expressed more interest in pursuing science subjects in the future. Thus, a growth mindset can have a massive impact on whether girls will keep their interest and motivation in STEM or go for more feminine careers instead. So obviously the challenges that I've just mentioned in the previous slide have not impacted me to the point where I didn't want to pursue a career in engineering. So I thought I'd share my perspective of my experience so far as a young female within the energy industry. So at primary school, I don't remember any specific moments regarding being either encouraged or discouraged from pursuing a career in STEM. I remember attending TechFest annually and always being fascinated by the way different experiments and demonstrations would showcase various aspects of science. I was well supported at home. My dad was a subsea engineer, my mum was a primary teacher, and I had a heavy influence from a great network of family and friends that were involved in STEM subjects as role models in my immediate circle. As I would ask them about their job, it would sound interesting, and since I loved maths and science, engineering seemed to be logical to pursue. At secondary school, it was highly encouraged to study science, which I had no objection to as I was a total nerd. And we had access to projects and competitions that were energy industry focused, given that I grew up in Aberdeen, so which I was highly interested in. One in particular that stands out was Petro Challenge, when you ran a fictitious oil company from the exploration stage through all the way through to production and export, which involved learning all key parts of the process of oil extraction and production. I found it so fascinating, so that was definitely a turning point that made me decide engineering was right for me at university. So moving on to university, I had overall a very positive experience. I was definitely in the minority. There was only about 10 girls initially, which dropped to about 4 in the final master's year. However, that didn't impact the learning throughout the course. I was close to a lot of my fellow male students, and I've made friends for life whilst I was at uni. There were a few issues surrounding comments suggesting sexism, such as you're only getting that because you're a girl. Sometimes the way the lecturers would speak was quite inappropriate. But I'm a resilient enough person to not let minor comments like that affect me or change my attitude into believing what needs to be achieved. I did suffer one incident when one of my lecturers did have to apologise for the way he had spoken to me, but the irony of the situation was it was the rest of my dissertation group, who were actually all male, that highlighted the issue to me. At the time, I was completely oblivious to the way he'd spoken to me and that it wasn't acceptable. But we did have a mixture of male and female lecturers, granted mostly male. However, there were females in senior lecturer roles who were very encouraging. So moving on to work, so since I joined CNOC in 2017, I've had such a brilliant journey so far where I can honestly say I've felt nothing but support when it comes to opportunities, and I've never felt disadvantaged or held back due to my gender or position. At CNOC, the graduates are given responsibility from day one, essentially, and my approach has always been, if there's an opportunity, then seize it. I've been lucky enough to be supported to go to Beijing to take part in an internal competition surrounding training, delivered SPE and hazard awareness training courses, shortlisted for OG UK's Graduate of the Year, and I've rolled out virtual reality software across all offshore assets, to name a few highlights. I'm in a very fortunate position where I have very strong female role models at work in senior positions. So as I progress through my career, I have those visible role models, some of which are my mentors as well, to help guide a career path and to share their experiences. So that touches on what Carla and Helen have mentioned already this morning. Although the female role models that I have are in the minority, the male role models at work are just as supportive in helping me develop, and I always know how supportive everyone is across the business. I'm also very aware that CNOC is dedicated to the further development of diversity and inclusion within the business, as we are as a company are heavily involved in OG UK's diversity and inclusion task group, as well as implementing unconscious bias training across the business from senior management level onwards. So moving on to offshore, so I only started working offshore in 2020, so I literally have no leg to stand on when it comes to experience of working offshore compared to most people. However, I did want to take some time to highlight the positive experience that I have had, mainly to reassure my mum that I do really enjoy offshore, despite her worrying endlessly anytime I go away, as all mums do. I won't lie and say every day offshore is brilliant. It's the same as every job. Some days are great and others not so much, but that's just life. You do miss home, family, friends, or missing events. Maybe not such a problem in 2020, but from a learning perspective as a young engineer, it is the most valuable experience that I can have, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and I wish it was for longer. Before I started working offshore, I was very nervous and anxious as I knew I was getting dropped into the middle of a completely male-dominated environment, and I was worried I would feel isolated with being one of the only females on board. Initially, for example, the first few hours, day or so, everyone was very welcoming, but it was nothing more than small talk. But I have a very persistent personality, so I was soon taken in as part of the team. At the start of my offshore stint, I was at the point where I knew it would be a great experience, but I would look forward to returning to the office environment. But now it's the complete reversal. I don't want to leave offshores. I'm really enjoying working with my colleagues, learning firsthand about working offshore, seeing scopes being performed, and of course the food. My line managers are very supportive and they highlight scopes that would be of benefit for me as a mechanical engineering graduate, and get me involved with as many parts of offshore as I can to maximise my time while I'm there and use the development opportunity to the best of my ability. So looking to the future then, as we look to the future and start to combat the challenges within diversity and develop on the good work that's already been done, these are 4 topics which I think are necessary to focus on to become successful in the ultimate goal of achieving a diverse and inclusive work scope. Number 1, involvement in STEM. Women in STEM have made differences in people's lives. Airbags in cars were supposed to protect people. Originally, however, the airbag design protected adult males but didn't protect smaller female bodies or children. Women engineers have introduced the changes to make a difference in product safety. Statistics have shown that if you don't engage children in STEM as young as 10 years old, then they're less likely to pursue a career in STEM. This is why it's critical to ensure STEM is at the forefront of education going forward, and using existing programmes such as the STEM Ambassador Programme, mentoring opportunities is key to ensure that we fill the inevitable skills gap within the energy industry and engage excited, enthusiastic individuals as the next generation. Number 2, diversity is critical to excellence. In Western cultures, our narratives about science often focus on the singular, brilliant scientists who make substantial contributions through their innate genius, such as Albert Einstein. However, scientific talent is not innate. It is cultivated through many hours of training and effort. Moreover, teams, not individuals, conduct most scientific research. When we consider scientific research as a group problem solving instead of unveiling the individual brilliance, diversity becomes key to excellence. That is, the ability to see the problem differently, not simply being smart, often is the key to a breakthrough. As a result, when groups of intelligent individuals are working to solve hard problems, the diversity of the problem solvers matters more than their individual ability. Therefore, diversity is not distinct from enhancing overall quality, it's integral to achieving it. Number 3, showcase development opportunities. Changing the environment in education and the workplace is important to increasing women in STEM. The AAUW report that I mentioned earlier says that female engineers who are most satisfied with their jobs worked for organisations that provided clear paths to advancement, gave employees challenging assignments that helped develop and strengthen new skills, and valued and recognised employees' contributions. And finally, number 4. As data shows, women aren't inferior to men when it comes to STEM. Biological differences alone aren't causing the lack of women in STEM. However, if schools, colleges, universities and STEM workplaces implemented the changes necessary to accommodate women and provide more support and a more positive environment for them to focus on their skills without the pressure that men don't have, we would not only see more women in STEM, but also be able to combat the surplus of unfilled STEM positions. One key point to note is that everyone's life experience is different, and we have to use the power of the collective to inspire the next generation and more females into this industry and promote ourselves as role models for people outside industry to see. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Victoria, and thanks to all our presenters. I think we can all say that that was a very interesting half an hour or so. lots of different comments there. If I can go to some questions, if I may. I'll take one for Helen first. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, just checking the technology's working. So Helen, lots of good points there, and I think one of the key things for me is your career path, whether short or long term. It's never too early to start planning. Make sure you know where you're going to, although it may change along the way. One of the questions that was mentioned from early on from Diana Davidson was that obviously you've moved from the Energy Institute, or energy industry, should I say, pardon my tongue. And Diana is saying that she has evolved from the energy industry as only one of 80 women EI fellows, that she couldn't find the right roles that she was looking for. Do you want to give us some thoughts on why you left energy?
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting that I probably didn't have any pre-COVID. I wasn't physically looking to leave energy. And I think, like a lot of people, that has the situation with their companies and within energy has changed. And we are going through a change. So I had an opportunity still to remain in the energy industry, but it wasn't the direction that I wanted to take. It wasn't in line with the progression that I wanted, but only because I did have a plan. I do 10-year plans, just to I've had 3 10-year plans. I have 4 years left of a plan. It doesn't matter what happens in the middle, as long as I kind of reach an end goal that I have, and my personal life as well. So I was given an option, but it didn't match the plan, and it was taking a step back, actually, And that's why possibly I've now kind of said about understanding your value, or being what if your value is not recognised. And that's not disrespectful to the company that I moved from. It was about their whole ethos had to change during that period. And I felt that my true potential was not being recognised and my progression would stop. So I decided not to take a new role, which was part of a COVID kind of restructure. And I thought, whilst you're, and this is another piece of advice, it's always better to look for a new role while you're in a role, and kind of take that and preempt that, still have a look around and see what's there. So I looked around, I became active on things like LinkedIn and things like that. I still wanted to stay in energy, but energy was stalling, and I wanted to make that change quite quickly. And then I had a couple of options, but the thing that changed it for me with coming to Thames Water is that they're going through a transition themselves, but also their new CEO, who is a female, started on the same day as me. And I thought that was a really attractive piece, that part of their transition is theirs was a restructure as well. And I was part of that. So I thought that that was a nice path to take, and it was pretty clear what the role was. So that's why I've evolved. I wasn't thinking water, but that opportunity was there when I looked around.
That sounds like an exciting new challenge. And only week 2 of the new role, so thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
But, lots of comments from all 3 speakers on the mentoring side of things, and I guess that fits in with it's never too early to start planning your career. Some comments on how do you find a mentor, how do you engage with a mentor, how formal is the process, or I guess you would have multiple mentors throughout your career. What are your thoughts in terms of the formal process? Is it informal? Is it formal? How does it all work?
Yeah, I mean, part of your personal development in engineering, as a chartered engineer, part of your personal development is to kind of find a mentor anyway, but it can be anybody, and you don't have to be an engineer. What I did was I had a look at where my gaps were, and say, for instance, it was in finance or it was in commercial or something like that, I'd find a mentor in that gap who would help me. So I'd identify where my gaps were, but also then I'd find a mentor who something that really interested me and maybe a path that I wanted to take. And that's why I went into a bit of innovation and technology, and it was outside of my business. So I found initially I had one mentor within my business, but who was in the leadership team, and then I kind of moved away from that and found someone outside of the business, which has really helped me. I had a friend who was a managing director in her own right, and she was really positive about my journey as well. So I kind of jumped on that. I could have had about 10 mentors, to be honest with you, but so there's no bounds. It's up to you. It takes no time for somebody to be a mentor, and I love it when people approach me and say, can you be a mentor? It's really humbling to think that you're in that position now, that people come and ask me to be a mentor as well. So yeah, so I hope that's kind of answered the question.
That's great. Okay, so we'll pass on to Carla if we can for a couple of questions. Lots of comments. One of the takeaways for me in that you said, obviously diverse teams make better decisions, but they can be more complex and need to move quickly, and surround yourself with people who inspire you. I've got a comment, the question that you posed, some comments in that said, what do you think workplaces on and offshore should be doing to make all employees feel that they belong? Isn't it time we stop trying to fix the women and focus our attention instead on fixing the workplace? That was one for Carla.
Yeah, so I come at this from the point of view of kind of this unique year that we've just had, and kind of the test that it's given to all of us for adapting our ways of doing things differently. You know, there's so often that I hear we can't do that, it won't work, this part of the business can't work in that way, or you know, it's just not how we do it. We have everyone who's managed in some way or another to keep working through lockdown and whatever the challenges that means for you, your families, the way of working. Certainly at Spirit Energy, we've proved that we can work separately, that we can still collaborate, that we can hold powerful meetings, that we can do what's needed to run our business. So we can't just look back and say it's impossible to change our ways of working. And there's many different lenses that you can put on this, but the one I would like to think about is, how do we take positives from this experience that say, actually, let's challenge as is and think about changing our ways of engaging with each other. And for me personally, the power of flexibility is a huge benefit. And I know a lot of companies are changing their working arrangements because of need and challenges coming back into the office environment. But I would suggest actually we can put a more positive lens on that and think about how flexibility can benefit everyone, and build on that as not using excuses about traditional ways of working. So gender is always an easy option to go to when we talk about the challenges of diversity, and it's a very visible way to measure diversity, but there's so many other elements of diversity, and so many of them are solved by giving people the flexibility to be able to manage all different parts of their lives or anything that they need. And in the working environment, then that's what this great experiment has shown us. There's something positive we can building there to change the way we do things, and thinking dramatically about that. So I don't think we can stop focusing on women, because there's still a problem, but that's only a small part of the conversation, and really the way to make a difference is to be bold and think about big moves, not the small stuff.
Okay, and one more question. What skills do we need for future challenges that our industry faces, and how will diversity of thought help us?
Yeah, excellent. So I kind of mentioned a bit around the importance of diversity of thought, but in the context of how you leverage that, you know, diversity is only part of the piece. You know, diversity and inclusion are often spoke about together, and the diversity of thought we need to build into our teams and the way we do business. But it only works if you've got the inclusivity as well, the collaboration, people working together, and everyone having a voice. So that's the inclusivity part of it. One of the big challenges that I see as our oil and gas anyway industry changes is how we adapt through the energy transition and find our role and deliver on our responsibilities, and the skills that we need to do that are exactly the same skills, ingenuity, creativity that you need to hunt for oil and gas and to produce it. One of the biggest worries I have at the moment is we're just not attracting people into our industry. There's lots of reasons why, but one of them is that it's just lost its popularity because it's very difficult for us to articulate the importance of oil and gas through the transition. I'm really worried about it, particularly if I look at geoscientists. Geoscientists applying at universities have reduced in the past 3 years by about 50 to 70%. That's huge, and that's a problem that is stored up for the oil and gas industry not too far off into the future. As an industry, we need people joining us to be creative and be ingenious as we solve our problems. And the people we need are the ones that care about the energy transition, not those who don't. So a great source of concern around attracting the right talent and keeping it here in the future.
Great, thank you. That leads us neatly on to Victoria as our third presenter. We gave a fantastic presentation and inspired us all as to somebody new into the industry. Victoria, your comments on there was lots of great stats in there, lack of awareness of opportunities, lack of role models, but now obviously you feel that you've got a good mix of male and female role models. How do you think we tackle the awareness side of things? What's the best approach to change the public's attitude towards the oil and gas industry and women coming in and, you know, negative press or negative media coverage?
I think one of the biggest things that we can do is educate. Really, at the end of the day, it all comes down to people are scared of what they don't know. So if you use that to educate exactly what gaps are missing in their knowledge, then you can really highlight exactly what the benefits are of the industry and how people can their skills can be utilised within the industry to progress forward. It is very difficult because there is a lot of negative connotations with the industry, given if it's the downturn, if it's the oil prices, if it's the impacts on the environment. But as long as it's explained clearly and it's just a level-headed, like a level playing field, and there's no kind of negative people coming in to try and challenge it, and it's just a normal conversation, then I think educating each other, understanding both sides as to why there's challenges from both sides of it, whether it's pro moving into the industry or people wanting to say they would never work in the industry. But I think as long as you can have a good conversation to understand both sides, then educating each other is the biggest tool I think you can use.
Yeah, and certainly I think events like TechFest and you know, all the STEM activities are invaluable, because I think a lot of the focus around the industry is possibly from secondary school onwards, whereas we should be looking at the primary children and really engaging them from an early age. So, what would your advice be, obviously, from you now to you as an earlier age? What would your advice be in terms of wanting to enter the industry?
Yeah, well, they say that there's so much opportunity out there. It's just kind of taking the time to find it and finding out what's right for you. There's so many aspects to STEM careers or within the energy industry. It's not just engineering. There's all sorts to get involved with. So I think just taking that time and learning about all the different opportunities that are out there, speaking to people, networking with people that you might not know yet, or if you've maybe thought that their job sounded really different and interesting, then to get involved with them or reach out to people that maybe went to your school or university that have gone a different path, etc., and just using your network to kind of build your own knowledge and getting involved with the right tools, etc. TechFest, like moving back onto TechFest and using that as a tool, that's been brilliant for my whole time growing up, and I know that it's still very heavily involved throughout the whole of lockdown as well. So I think it's just important not to see that this year has just been hidden away in a computer screen, that TechFest are still really actively trying to promote STEM, even if we're all stuck at home just now as well.
Well, certainly your role within CDOC sounds fantastic in terms of you can sort of experience lots of different roles and then decide, as Helen was saying earlier, that what your career path is going forward, shorter or longer term.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate.
Okay, I think we've answered quite a lot of the questions, and I'm conscious of time because we're coming up to 11. And any other comments from the panelists or my fellow committee members? Any burning questions you want to ask the panelists? That sounds like a resounding no. So, one question I was asked from one of the attendees, which was a very valid one, was that we obviously have an all-female panel today, which was not really a ourselves as the committee talked long and hard, I think, for the last 6 months as to whether we had a mix of male and female, and we decided, because this is a range of events or an ongoing event, that we will plan to do 2 or 3 more events of this type, possibly honing down on specific topics in more detail. So we'll certainly be looking at our own diversity on the panels as well. So any further comments? Anything anybody wants to sort of follow up with, or will I pass over to Suli for our kind of closeout session?
Yeah, so sorry, Katrina, it's Alison.
Hi.
Oh, I've got feedback. Yeah, it was just addressing the question that you've just answered. But yes, we did have the discussion about whether we should have men on the panel. But we actually had a long list of people that we could have had on the panel today. And I think the 3 speakers that we've had have been fantastic. And absolutely, men have to be part of the discussion. I don't believe it's a man-woman competition. I think it's a discussion that everyone needs to have. And we know predominantly that the Energy Institute audience has been predominantly male. I've been a committee member for 4 years now and been in the minority at most events. So absolutely, it needs to be everyone. But I think so much material and so many things to speak about that hopefully this is the start of a series of events. We would love it to be. I think all of the team have been engaged in putting this together, and I'm certainly keen to progress. So it's definitely something that we're going to consider for the future.
Thanks, Alison. One last question. Are there women EI members in every EI regional committee? Yes, I would say certainly from our committee. We're recruiting for new committee members at the moment. Our AGM is next month, so if anybody wants to help us form future events, then we'd love to hear from you. I'll put a note with my contact details with the recording details after this, but I think I'll hand over to Suli to kind of close out the session. But as I say, I'll send further details and the recording out, and hopefully we'll get another event in the diary very soon.
Super. Hello everyone, my name is Suli and I have been representing the SPE Aberdeen Women in Energy group in planning for this event along with Rutika. This event was brought to you by the Energy Institute in collaboration with SPE Aberdeen and Powerful Women. Diversity and inclusion have been on the business agenda for a number of years, yet the energy industry today does not have a strong track record in the area of encouraging and nurturing diverse talent. And with the energy sector currently undergoing a period of change and transition, now seems an opportune moment to examine some of the challenges within the industry and take steps to encourage a more diverse workforce. As Alison said, this is the first of hopefully many events aimed to inspire change through diversity of thought at all levels across our industry. A couple of words about SPE Aberdeen. At SPE Aberdeen, we recognise the significant impact that diverse talent and digital transformation play today. And we actually have placed these at the heart of our strategy and mission. If you want to get involved with SPE Aberdeen, whether it be the mentoring scheme or stepping up and being a role model, holding events, or even just volunteer in any capacity, please get in touch via LinkedIn or any other social media channel. Finally, big thank you to everyone for taking the time to watch today, and I hope you found the webinar helpful and thought-provoking. I would like to thank all our panelists, Helen, Carla and Victoria. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today and for sharing your thoughts and experiences so generously. To my fellow committee, Alison, Ritika and Katrina, thanks for all the time and energy you've put in putting this together. And from all of us today, goodbye and thanks for watching, and I hope you join us again for future events. Thanks, Julie. Thanks to everybody who had joined us. I think we had nearly 60 over the period of the hour. So I will, as they close out the recording just now, and you'll get an email from me in the next couple of days just with some links to a survey that we're doing, and also we'll keep you informed on future events. So thank you to everybody. Have a great day, and we'll hopefully see you again soon.